Hello, West Ham Network. It is Holly, and today we are going to be taking a look at just some of the West Ham players that are creeping towards the end of their contracts. Now, it doesn't only include players, it also includes our manager, and we are going to be running through all of them in today's video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up to show your support. And if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe. Sorry if I sound a little bit ill today. It is because I've caught what I can only describe as the plague. So if you're new around here, you'll also be happy to hear that I usually sound a little bit less snotty than this. So basically, it can only get better from here. Anyway, back to football. We did a great bit of business renewing Jarrod Bowen's contract until 2030, with him saying that he would be happy to end his career at West Ham, something that we all want to hear as fans. However, football obviously never stands still, and we've got a lot of players, many of which we would consider to be either first team or those that we're hoping will have a big future at the club, who are coming towards the end of their contracts, many of which are actually ending in summer. Now, this is becoming a pretty big concern because, as we know, the closer they get to the end of their contract, it suggests that either the player or the club are unsure of their future at West Ham. Then you also obviously then get other clubs sniffing around that player. And we don't want them to go on a cheap. We don't want them to go on a free. When they've got little time left on their contract, we basically want to get that business wrapped up, if it matters to us as a club, before any heads can get turned. So the big question is, who should we renew and who should we move on in January to get money while we can? Let us know in the comments which players you would want to offer tempting deals to try and keep them to stay at the club. So we are now going to begin by running through just some of those that are disappearing unless we change things around June 2024, which is not far away now. So up first, we've got Aaron Cresswell. Now, we've had lots of rumours over the summer that he wanted to leave, but this didn't materialise, and he has obviously stayed at the club. Now, his contract is already extended as much as it can be, ending in June 2024. He's been one that we've not used much at all, and he's also been injured. So perhaps now is the time to move him on while we can still make some money on the sale. With Cresswell wanting to leave, this only really leaves Emerson or Johnson if we played him there as a backup, making this quite a priority position, excuse me, to sign someone in whenever Cresswell does go. Up next, Fabianski. Now, as we know, he is a second choice goalkeeper that's doing pretty well for us, but at 38, he doesn't have youth on his side. He has, however, performed to a great standard at West Ham. He's been part of amazing memories that we've had in recent years, and he's still pretty reliable as a backup for now. His contract with us runs out next summer with no option to extend any further than we already have, judging by all the official sources. And we also know that he was disappointed to be dropped, so he's likely to want as much game time as possible, but whether or not he'd be willing to drop down a league and go elsewhere to get this remains to be seen. Obviously, age is the main challenge that he has to go to sort of another Premier League club if he was to leave us. Then Ogbonna, he's another that is only under contract until June. Now, he signed a one-year contract extension after his previous deal expired. He's still doing a decent job when he steps in to save us, forgetting that mistake against Bakatopola. But age, again, is not on his side. Now, seeing as he signed a one-year extension, perhaps he would be open to agreeing the same arrangement for one more year, potentially. If he'd be open to it, who knows? But the question is, are we just prolonging the inevitable with him? And is it time to just sort of just move on a little bit? Still like Ogbonna, but yeah, obviously not one for the future. Then we have Antonio, whose contract runs out in June 24 as well. It does have a one-year extension option. It was actually rumoured that he'd signed a new deal, but there was no official announcement of this. And from my research, nobody that is reputable has any evidence of this happening. So for now, he's on the list of those that are almost out of contract. He still does a job, but it definitely does divide the fan base when he has inconsistent performances, as well as being linked with various moves over the last year. Then we have got Vladimir Coufal. Coufal's contract has already been extended to the max, running out in June 24 again. And this is another position that we need to strengthen in upcoming transfer windows, particularly if Coufal does go. Now, while he regularly starts for us, he's 31 years old, but he is currently in absolutely fabulous form. So he has the second most assists, in case you didn't know, in the Premier League behind Trippier, with 4 assists in 8 Premier League games. So he's making it very difficult for him to get dropped when a lot of people were calling for him to be replaced pretty much from the beginning of the season. So that's another interesting one for us to consider. Then we have Pablo. So Fornals' contract runs out again next summer, in case you weren't guessing the theme. He's a player that I know I'd be really sad to see leave. We've had great memories with him, but I also understand that we can't really offer him regular game time. And I think he does deserve that. And he's still at a stage in his career where he should be ambitious and be wanting that. Personally, I think this would be a fantastic piece of business, and it would really help squad depth if we can get the renewal of this over the line. Don't think it'll be easy, because I think he wants to play, and I know that we can't offer him any assurances with that because we have a lot of competition for those spots. But yeah, another one that I would like to think that we can change the mindset that being on the bench and being able to be part of the squad rotation isn't a bad thing, but that's quite a big job when you've got a player that's obviously passionate and wants to play. Coventry, now his contract ends in June 24, but there is the option of another year should we wish to activate it. But what do we think? Is he of the standard that we actually need at West Ham now, or is he just one of those that isn't likely to work out? We have a lot of youngsters now coming through that are looking very promising. And unfortunately, it sounds as though Coventry is sort of being forgotten about a little bit and isn't proving himself in the same way that he was or being given the opportunities. We've got Ben Johnson. He's another that comes to an end in summer. And there are question marks around basically whether or not he's strong enough to play for the first team regularly. He's had chances, he's dropped back out, and he's basically our third choice right and left back. So things are not looking particularly good for us wanting to continue a future with him. Anang, young goalkeeper and England under-20 international. Joseph Anang, his contract runs out summer again. He's one that's been on the brink of basically making the first team. He's been promoted to the club's third choice goalkeeper. He's been named in matchday squads and Conference League ties and Premier League games. But again, is he one that wants to stick around if he's going to stay third choice? Or could it be that in the coming years, Fabianski moves on, potentially this summer even, and he becomes second choice, and that is enough to keep him at the club? We have Mabama. Now, he's another that I'd be devastated to lose. He's showing so much promise, but he's now at the point where he needs the opportunity to show what he can do. And it feels like the coming season is kind of going to be all or nothing for him. His contract does come to an end in June 2024, but we have the option to extend that for one more year, which we can activate. And I'd be very surprised if we don't. I think the only difficulty will be if other clubs come knocking for him, given the form and how he's doing. And he wants game time. So hopefully that is something, again, that we can offer. We need to be able to rotate our squad to be able to keep everyone match fit, to avoid injuries and to keep consistent performances. So hopefully we can start to see some more of these players introduced, and it means that there's a lot more for them to stay for. Touching on that, we have Callum Marshall. Now, he's quickly becoming a favourite from the Academy of Football. He's performing very consistently, with many of us desperate to see what he could do in the first team if given the chance. And he's another that is under contract until June 2024. Now, I can't see any sign of an option to extend his contract, but it could be that it is in place and it's just not being publicised. Hopefully that is the case, because I'm scared if he could go on a free, especially seeing as his stats are outstanding, simply put, at the moment. And then the last of the players, last but not least, Souček. He's returning to the form that he was in a few seasons back, as he's got more of a free role to get forward and attack. And we knew that when he became the more defensive player, his goals dried up. And that was a major part of what we obviously appreciated in his performances so much. Now, the result of this has been 2 goals and an assist in 7 Premier League matches so far this season, which simply put is blooming impressive. He was another that apparently signed a new deal, according to all the rumours, but there's been no official announcement of this, and all reputable sources are saying that his contract still runs out in June 2024. So for now, we're going to base it on that until we hear otherwise from somebody that can definitely be trusted. But again, I think it would be a shame to lose him, because I think he's a fantastic option. Whether we see him as the future or not, I don't know, because the inconsistencies have been difficult, I suppose, to see him as our chosen player in that position. But at the moment, he is performing. He is doing a job. He is an absolute unit. He isn't scared of throwing everything on the line to try and score a goal. So definitely one that you wouldn't necessarily want to get rid of as a backup for a position at the very, very worst. So as an overview, those are just some of the players which have their contracts coming to an end next summer. With so many, some of them are pretty much key players in our squad. We've got to decide whether to offer new deals, whether to sell them on in January to make some money while we can, or to let them the contracts run down and let them go on a free. We also have players like Ings and Zuma who have contracts ending in June 2025, so a year later than this. So these can actually be added, in my opinion, to the list of players that we need to act on sooner rather than later. For example, in my opinion, we could move Ings on, seeing as it doesn't seem that he's working, while he still has some value, before he gets any older, before his performances, like before he's literally not played in any games in absolutely ages. And then obviously we could extend Zouma's contract before it goes sort of before it gets anywhere close, because we don't want other clubs sniffing around players that we definitely will want probably at the club, if I had to say. So yeah, it's definitely not an easy decision, but we've started making a big difference to our recruitment. I don't know about you, let me know what you think, but I feel a lot more positive. If we were to get rid of some of these players a little bit earlier than we probably traditionally would, if we don't see a future with them at the club, I think we could reinvest that money quite wisely to strengthen the squad and no longer have to rely on aging players or underperforming players with less than a year or two on their contracts. If they're not actually interested in securing their future at West Ham, perhaps it is time to cut our losses, get a bit of money while we can, and go and get some players that really do want to play for us, because we've got a lot going for us. We're playing well in the Premier League. We've got European football, and it's not a one-off like we've had it 3 years in a row now. So there are many attractive aspects of playing for West Ham. And I think if people aren't fussed about staying at the club, perhaps it's time to move them on. So yeah, let me know what you think. Leave a comment with the players that you want to either keep or sell from this here list. And then the big one, David Moyes. So for the next big contract discussion, Moyes' contract also runs out next summer. And it's definitely going to be one that is going to cause some discussions. The big question for you, and I want to hear what you think, would you stick or would you twist? So on the side of extending Moyes' contract, Moyes has brought us to winning a European trophy. He's guided us through 3 years of European football now, and he is currently keeping us well away from the relegation zone, which we were so used to sitting around historically. Then on the other side of the argument, we lost 20 league games last year. We struggled to play attacking football against some of the best teams. We stick to the same game plan a lot of the time. We struggle to do anything with possession when we get it, and also have a bit of a lack of possession going on as well. And we fall back into the same solution of utilising Michail Antonio and don't seem to really have a way around that, because we always go back to it. And with Antonio looking likely to leave at some point, it brings a question, can he bring us forward? So I can't argue that Moyes has given me the best football memories I've had in my entire life so far, that I'm incredibly grateful as well for the fact that our current form is solid. I don't think I can name a manager that I would want to bring in right now to replace him. Or like, I can't name somebody, but I'm torn, because if our form dips, I also think it will be time to make that change quite quickly, and we'll have to be ready to act. So again, the same question for Moyes. Do you extend his contract, or do you get rid of him next summer? And if you want to get rid, I want to know who you would like to see take his place, because I know I've definitely been guilty of being like, no, they've got to go. But I don't have any idea of who I would actually trust more than the current manager. So don't forget to put that in the comments with who you would actually want to come in. Don't be saying Pep Guardiola as well, because that's too easy. So yeah, that is all from me for now. Those are our signings. It's very interesting because essentially next summer we could see a massive, massive reshuffle from management to all these players. If a new manager comes in the place of Moyes, like, the question is, how many of these players would he keep around? Would they have already had contracts extended? Are they going to have a lot more budget to play with, because we'll be getting people disappearing basically? So it's going to be a very, very interesting 6 or so months ahead. We've got a lot of positives to work on. We've got Stuyton. We've got a good recruitment strategy by the looks of it, starting to really hit the ground running. So yeah, that is everything. Let us know what you think in the comments, and make sure you return as well at 5 p.m. My voice is going, for your Hammers headlines. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up and leave us a comment, because as always, I love to hear your thoughts. We all love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much as always for watching. And until next time, have a great day. Come on, you Irons.